There has been a lot of pathetic people on the internet throughout the short history of the modern internet as we know it, and by that I am referring to the years of 2010 to present. There has been a lot of pathetic people, and many of them were once very relevant in their own niche for maybe not a very noticeable amount of time, and now that I mention that, there will probably be a couple of people that will immediately come to mind. Some people that a lot of us will know about, some that some of us have never even heard of. Typically, a lot of these losers will never remain relevant for a long period of a time, and many will eventually be forgotten. However, there are some people out there that, due to their misery and incapability of ever functioning better as a person or correcting their negative aspects, they will inevitably remain relevant on the internet as nothing but a lolcow. One of the worst people that has remained relevant for the longest amount of time in regards to the description and boring monologue I just gave all of you would have to be the one and only BOOGIE2988. Plenty of people do not like Boogie, and I'm no different. I really don't like this person either, and that's because there is a lot of negative traits that he possesses, and this is nothing in regards to him being fat. I don't really care about any of the fat-phobic rhetoric bullshit. Sure, it's not healthy to be fat, and 90% of people should not be fat, but I'm not going to think any less of anyone for being fat. My personal dislike for Boogie is the same reason most reasonable people would dislike any dysfunctional person for. In this documentary, we saw a lot about how Boogie is as a person in his day-to-day life, and well, none of what we are exposed to can actually be used in a positive way. If anything, this documentary really paints him in a not so great light at all. You see, Boogie pretends to be a nice guy. He pretends to care about improvement. He pretends to be a very capable person, but that illusion is instantly erased during this documentary. For example, right off the bat in the opening scenes, we see how Boogie is actually incredibly bad at managing his finances and claims that he never even learned how to manage his money as he had his ex-wife doing all of that for him.
Yeah, so when it comes to financial approach, I don't fucking know what I'm doing. For the longest time, my ex-wife handled that shit, but then I got divorced. I don't know where my money is. I don't know what it's doing. The only thing I've ever done with it is I threw it into crypto and then lost a shitload of it. Well, here's everything. $2,758 in my bank account right now. And let's see if mortgages come out yet. So tomorrow, when they take mortgage out, I'll have about $700 to live off of until the 20th when I get paid again from YouTube. So I'm just going to live off of $700.
The irony in all of this quickly slaps everyone in the face because in the past he had claimed that he was actually rich and made over double his money with crypto investments and then bragged about how well off he was in life. Granted, not too long after the whole crypto hype, he does admit that he was financially struggling, but none of us actually thought it would be as disgusting as it is. Sure, he did admit at various points that he made bad investment decisions and spent a little bit recklessly, but further into this documentary, it shows us just how degenerate he was in his reckless spending. Let me get into the tamest example. At some point, he mentions that his TV started crackling at certain tones, and then says that because of that, he thought it was absolutely necessary to buy a soundbar so that he could properly hear his TV. To any normal individual, that is literally such an unnecessary non-issue to worry about, yet somehow he can find a way to justify his purchase by comparing this to an addiction, which I'm glad he did. It shows a little bit of self-awareness, but if you are aware of that, why not make an active effort to not spend the money? It is so easy to just not need something unnecessary. As a matter of fact, he acknowledges that he needs to budget. He acknowledges in two different ways that his purchase is a bit extreme, yet he, I assume, doesn't bother to return the product or cancel the purchase.
I've told the audience, I've told you guys, I've told everybody, this is the center of my world, right here in this recliner with my dogs, watching television, playing video games on that television. But the other day, the audio on this TV started to go out, and whenever it would make like S sounds, it would crackle. And so I know I'm budgeting, but I immediately went to Amazon and bought a sound bar for $100. And then the next day, the TV stopped crackling. And now I have a $100 sound bar that I don't need. But I know I'm supposed to be budgeting right now, but because that's my TV, because that's my only source of entertainment, because it's the only thing I do, it's one of the only things that bring me peace, I'm like, I have to be able to hear my fucking TV. But that's every addict, right? Like Mitch Hedberg said, I'll just do enough heroin. And then he OD'd on heroin, right? So I guess every addict tries to manage the addiction, but I don't know, man.
And his desire and addiction for, well, pleasures and luxuries, his need for a self-indulging, self-gratifying lifestyle is really the drive behind his bad decisions. So it's no secret that Boogie cares about self-indulgence. He cares about pleasure so much that he genuinely blew thousands upon thousands of dollars on escorts and S-work. And the thing is that if he had any ounce of self-control, if he had any ounce of actual awareness, he would know that maybe spending all of his money on hookers that won't provide anything for him in the long term maybe isn't the greatest idea. It is simply him letting the desires win over responsibility. And that is honestly disgusting, because it is not hard to just say that you don't want to do something for the sole purpose of just avoiding to spend something else. I mean, do you know how many families on a day-to-day life have to avoid eating warm food every night for the sake of keeping a roof over their heads? Or maybe something not too far off, maybe something that's not too extreme of a comparison? Do you know how many young adults avoid spending money on simple luxuries like phones, subscriptions, or even fast food for the sake of pursuing an education or even a long-term career? Well, it suffices to say that Boogie just doesn't care, as his mentality for spending money and spending on things is actually completely different. It's completely fucking bonkers. It's deranged. It's delusional.
So I deserve to go to Disneyland with a beautiful girl, right? I deserve to go to New York and explore Times Square with a beautiful girl, right? Like, I deserve that, and I want that, and I've never had it.
So in this clip, the way he just feels entitled and feels like he deserved to have relations with these women is honestly incredibly mortifying and appalling, because he doesn't even have a reason, not that there would be a good reason anyways, or even explain why he deserves it. He just keeps going on about how he deserves to fuck beautiful women, how he deserves to be with incredibly attractive women, simply because he never got to experience it. And I mean, news flash, buddy, most people will never actually get to experience a 10 out of 10 woman ever in their lives, unless of course you fall in love with somebody that you consider a 10 out of 10, and if that's the case, then I am incredibly happy for you, but you know exactly what I mean. It is honestly disgusting the way he feels like he just should, and this definitely came back to bite him in the ass, as he expresses and copes that all the money he spent he could have used to pay his mortgage and other bills. And I mean, maybe you should have thought of that in the past before spending $200,000 on prostitutes when your house is also in the $200,000 range. Maybe you would have had most of your house paid off by now, if not all of it. Maybe you should have just paid your house off like a responsible adult and not just blow your money like a child.
Man, if I had that money back, that would be half of my mortgage right now. That $1,000 is my entire health insurance payment. I don't know what the prostitutes did with it, and I hope they spend it in good health. But I sure could use that shit right now.
The audacity of this man just increases exponentially, however, because we just further get to see just how bad his priorities are placed, as he doesn't seem to have any priority in the right place at all, for that matter. There is a segment here where he's talking about how he loves collectibles and grew up with them, and they all define him, which is fine. I understand. You love what made you who you are and what helped you, influenced you in your career, but you really shouldn't feel that tied down to material items. I mean, I get it, but there is only so much you should really emotionally invest yourself into buying. I mean, imagine buying all of this garbage and then spending thousands and thousands of dollars on them, only for them to be completely obsolete and them not actually bringing you any value in the future. And this is exactly what happens, because he then is forced to sell a couple of his collectibles to pay rent, but also, well, I'll show you the clip.
Selling magic cards on Whatnot. I'm selling collectibles on eBay. I'm selling arcade machines locally. I'll sell it all. And I'm going to sell enough to help with the mortgage, but I'm also going to sell enough to be able to play Magic tonight, because I don't want people wondering why I'm not there. I don't want people like knowing I'm broke. Like, that's embarrassing. I can't afford $30 to play Magic. So I'm spending $30 to play Magic tonight.
So he explains that he does not earn enough to be covering monthly expenses, yet despite that, he emphasizes that not only is he going to sell enough to pay for his monthly expenses, but he will also sell enough to play Magic. And his reasoning behind it is actually fucking, well, it's silly. It's just dumb. It's goofy. He explains that he wants to be able to pay $30 to play Magic so that people won't just assume that he's broke. Boogie genuinely cares more about his ego than he does about saving an additional $30. Keep in mind, this is all just ego. All he cares about is how he feels and not about what he could do with an additional $30 every month. That's money that, if saved for 12 months, could have been $360 that he could have used to pay a car note, partial mortgage, or even used in an emergency situation such as medicine or maintenance. But he genuinely cares more about what people will think about him than what he could accomplish if he just decided to save a little bit more money. It is definitely more about making himself feel like some top dog alpha than it is about him actually needing something, which brings me to another point. In this next clip, Boogie talks about how he brings his friends together every Saturday and spends $300 a month every month to buy snacks and drinks for his friends, and honestly, it seems very kind. I would definitely be appreciative, and his friends even say that he goes out on a limb to offer them anything they may need in case of a situation where they might be in an emergency, such as offering them room. And while it is virtuous and kind-hearted, his other behavior makes me wonder if he actually cares or if he wants to present himself as this great individual for the sake of his ego. Personally, I'm going to give grace. I'm going to assume the best of his character here and say that he is being very kind, but that thought does come and make me question a lot about him.
Okay, so I have $1 million question for you guys. Every Saturday we get together. Every Saturday I order what? Pizza, chicken fingers, tacos. Those are the things I normally get us, right? Like, I normally spend like $100, $150 every Saturday to like feed us. And like, I showed them my bank books today, and I'm not like, I've never wanted to burden you guys with this, but like, I'm at a point where saving $300 a month would be useful.
I mean, we've been telling you for years that we don't care about the food that much.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I like having snacks and soda when I'm over here because I don't eat those at my house. Right. But we've definitely said it throughout the years. Like, you don't have to feed us, but you do it anyway. So
more interesting though, his friends even say that for years they have been telling him that it is not necessary to spend that much money every month on them, but for whatever reason, which is very kind of him, don't get me wrong, he kept doing so. I've heard some people attack this point a lot, but honestly, I will just say that yes, it was dumb spending all of that money, and yes, you could have in fact saved all of it for the last couple of years, and I will just leave it at that in good faith because I don't want to insinuate anything in these regards. What I will dig into though is this part where he starts questioning his friends about bringing girlfriends around, because honestly this entire part just feels like he's just trying to brag. It feels as if he's just trying to brag about all of the money that he spent on a bunch of hookers, and well, I'll let you see for yourself.
When are we going to start bringing girlfriends around? Also, when are we going to start bringing girlfriends around that aren't hookers? Because that's all I've brought around for 5 years. I mean, like, we haven't had like legitimate girlfriends over in a long time. You haven't dated in a while. You haven't dated in a while.
I mean, yeah, a while. That's fair enough, yeah.
So he seriously asks his friends, when are we bringing girlfriends around? And literally no one cares. I think he is genuinely the only person to bring this up for the sake of making himself feel superior. One last, yeah guys, I'm still doing better than you. And then he has the audacity to say when they're going to bring girlfriends that aren't hookers, you know, just doubling down. Like, come on, Boogie. I think the only person here spending money on hookers and worrying about bringing girls into a bro sausage fest is you. Then he starts calling his bros out and making examples of them, like, damn bro, when is the last time you got some bitches? Not in a while, huh? Like, I mean, look at this dude right here. He looks so done with his shit. And rightfully so, because by this point, now that we have seen this behavior and a breakdown of his income as well as what he spent, we can really see that he is actually not doing that bad. He's just completely obsessed with maintaining his lifestyle of self-gratification and luxury, if you want to call it that. So, Boogie has actively spent $250,000 on nothing but escorts, money that could have definitely paid his mortgage a long time ago again, and he acknowledges that. But the worst thing about it is that despite acknowledging his mistakes and knowing where the problem resides, all he cares about is bragging and maintaining his lifestyle. All he cares about is really just maintaining his ego. The more we get into this documentary, we start noticing just how apparent this actually is, as the documentary starts touching on to a little bit of something called covert narcissism. 20 minutes into the documentary, and you're already witnessing not just how much of an egotistical person he is, but we're also witnessing how he wants to feed his ego and feed his desire for attention and pity points by actively making it seem like every aspect of his life is extremely difficult. Which I don't doubt it is because of all of his health complications that he goes on the list, but it makes you think why he hasn't made an active effort to actually rectify his conditions, most of which he could in fact make a comeback from. What I find really annoying is the fact that several times throughout this documentary, in regards to his covert narcissism, he always makes himself out to be the victim of misfortune. On top of that, like I said earlier, instead of rectifying his issues, he just makes it worse for himself. Like the whole magic thing, remember how he needed to spend $30 for magic, which he didn't? Well, this person doesn't know how not to just take it hard sometimes. He doesn't know how to just lay back and accept the fact that life can be difficult, and he doesn't constantly need to feel pleasure. At some point, he thought it was absolutely necessary to buy Taco Bell because he thinks he's entitled to simple pleasures in life because of all of the difficult things he has to go through. All he has to do is just have a little bit of self-control. All he has to do is just say no to himself. He is literally his own worst enemy. Something I want to hammer on, and this is a word I've been wanting to use for quite a while during this entire video, is that Boogie is the biggest hedonist you will ever see. Literally. If you don't know what a hedonist is or what hedonism is, it's the practice of actively pursuing pleasure and self-gratification as the utmost important thing in life. If anyone has lived for even a moment in a modern-day society, we are all aware that hedonism is one of the most essential downfalls for almost every single person. I believe it is safe to say that all of us are aware about just how bad hedonism can be, as the pursuit of nothing but pleasure, such as the use of vapes, alcohol, weed, gambling, porn, and even to an extent video games and media in extreme circumstances, the pursuit of pleasure can really send people down into a spiral of never being capable of living without constantly gratifying themselves. And Boogie is literally nothing but all of this. Again, the amount he has spent on women, literally insane. Literally an unhealthy, pathetic, and disgusting addiction. Clearly, this dude didn't learn anything from Michael DeSanta from GTA 5. And then there's the consumer mentality, with 2 O's by the way. He loves buying food, and he always finds an asinine way of justifying a purchase of unhealthy food, which is the leading cause of his physical failures. The only justifications he has for any of this is because it brings him joy, not because he needs it. Further on the consumer point, during various points in the documentary, he also mentioned how he felt compelled, how he absolutely needed to buy products and video games for no other reason, simply that he needed it for his own indulgence.
Diablo 4 came out, I had to buy it. Final Fantasy 16 came out, I had to buy it. Tears of the Kingdom came out, I had to buy it. That's $400 for the video games right there.
This person is hedonistic to the highest degree. Like I mentioned earlier, they are genuinely young, happy-go-lucky, amazing people who probably deserve games, luxuries, women, and money. And while a lot of them probably do self-indulge and participate in hedonistic society to an extent, a lot of people constantly also budget and avoid doing certain things like going out, eating food, or buying video games or products so that they can spend their money on better things like their tuition, their transportation, their medicine, or other things that are actually beneficial to their lifestyle. Something that I want to skip to so I can add to this point of hedonism and his inability to come to terms with reality and touch grass is something towards the end of the documentary. So this person, instead of seeking therapy for his obvious addictions, his narcissism, his terrible coping mechanisms, he literally looks at some random bullshit articles written by stoners and hippies talking about how mushrooms have spiritual properties that can heal and reset your brain from any trauma and mental illness. Newsflash, buddy, that's not how it works, but I'm not going to get all research WebMD on you guys today.
Oh, there's something I've always wanted to try. There's a lot of research that came out of Europe, and now we're doing it here in the United States, where psychedelics can help reset certain brains. People who experience childhood abuse, people who've gone through trauma, people who deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I'm all of those. To be honest, I'm scared shitless. It's one of the only things I haven't tried yet. So let's give it a shot.
So it is more than safe to say that Boogie is an insanely hedonistic person. He is nothing but self-indulging, and he could literally accomplish so much in his life if he just stopped thinking he was always entitled to pleasure and luxury. Something that really pisses me off is that instead of actually pursuing avenues to better his life, to improve his conditions, to actually progress and become not only a better individual, but to also extend his life on this planet, all he does is just make bullshit cop-outs. There's segments in this documentary where this topic is brought up, improving his livelihood. At one point, the plan for him to make a comeback was for him to find a job so that he can maintain the lifestyle that he is currently living. They set up this interview for him to see if he qualified for any jobs, but as soon as he gets there, he does nothing but self-sabotage.
And so you are here today because you are seeking employment.
Yeah,
You're seeking out new work opportunities.
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your background and where you think you want to go with the experience that you already have.
I did work at a small gaming store back in 2006, 2007. I am disabled, recognized by the state of Arkansas, but also the United States government. There's that. Now, the downside of that is I am extremely depressed, so there's some mental health issues that we bring to the table. And then physically, I am morbidly obese. I have no references, no work history, and no education. And when you Google my name, you might see rumors that I beat my ex-wife and I'm also a pedophile. Should mention I'm also a felon.
Like, dude, it is not hard to just hype yourself up and say that you have gained all of this experience in media production, communications, advertising, and marketing because you were a notable figure at one point with charisma. Charisma that did well to get you sponsors and actually sell products to your fans. That is a skill that not many people actually have or can even attain. I'm going to be real though, the likelihood of an employment facility finding you a comfortable job that requires those skills, and air quotes, is very, very, well, not likely at all, but you could at least actually try to make yourself appear as a capable person. Instead, Boogie just shoots himself in the foot over and over again, and the recruiter catches on to this immediately.
I think there are some avenues you could explore. I definitely don't think it's impossible, but you have some challenges.
Yeah.
Lots of things in life are about your mindset, and you're using weight and disability. I can't. If that is the attitude that you're going to have when you approach everything, then you can't, and you won't.
Of course, Boogie doesn't actually want to go through with this. Despite making it abundantly clear that he is a problem individual and has very few capabilities, he still feels himself to be more superior than a job. Because shortly after this, he actually calls Mike Clum, the maker of this documentary and the one who wanted Boogie to improve his life, just to tell him that he's above a normal job.
Hey, Mike. Listen, dude. I know we're making this documentary and everything, and I know you think I need to get a real job, but I just want to let you know I'm not going to. I'm not going to walk into some job when I have 4 million subscribers on YouTube. I'm one of the original YouTubers. What I'm going to do instead is go back to making content, go back to telling stories and entertaining people and making money doing it. And you want to check back with me in a couple of months? Let's see how things are going.
So which one is it, Boogie? Are you capable of being an interesting and good individual so that you can actually gain the support of 4 million subscribers that have long lost any respect for you? Or are you an incapable person that can't hold any orthodox job per your own words and explanation? It just doesn't make any sense. Are you capable or not? Surely there's something you have actually done to deserve all of these luxuries that you feel so entitled to. The way I see it, Boogie never really grew up as an adult. He got too famous for his own good, and he's a perfect example of what happens when someone gets too much of an ego too fast. The last thing I want to talk about is how he actively talks about how he has a short amount of time to live.
My biggest fear is dying on her. If I die in the next 2 or 3 years on her, that's just going to ruin her life. I really want you to understand how actually sick I am. Like, I don't know if you actually get it, but this is my health summary. This is everything that's currently wrong with me. My risk for stroke or heart attack is astronomical. I am essentially a walking time bomb, and I'm so fucking sorry for that. I really wish I had taken better care of my body.
As we can see in the documentary, he's constantly complaining about how he probably won't get to see a life beyond the next 10 years, and to add insult to injury, he also mentions that he is angry about how he did nothing about it to make himself healthier or to even add more life to his lifespan. But the thing is, if you really cared that much, if you were really so aware, and if it was that much of a bother, you would be making it your mission and life goal to correct the behaviors that negatively impact you. But you don't do that. You just contradict your entire status and say that because you will soon die and never got to enjoy anything, that you rather enjoy everything for the short amount of time you have left, which leads you to just overindulge in things that you don't need. If you simply didn't, you would have a lot more time left to live. If you pursued some tough, disciplined things for once in your life, like exercise, dieting, budgeting, and abstain from your addictions, you could make such an improvement within the next 3 years, and you could actually see life past 70 years old. I actually had a lot more to say in regards to his life and how his behavior affects his newly found girlfriend, but I don't think it is appropriate to talk about someone that we don't actually know too well. I actually had to cut out a lot in regards to manipulation and unhealthy relationship standards such as power dynamics and whatnot, but I think that is overstepping my criticism. We don't actually know what this girl is all about, aside from very surface level things that we have seen in the documentary, Twitter, and well, yeah, that's about it. So I don't think it's right to assume she's some traumatized, beautiful princess disorder individual, and I'll end it at that. I mean, we don't know her intentions, bro. For all we know, she's the mastermind behind all of this. Boogie does have the ability to recover and become a better individual, to actually spend time with this girl instead of being sorry that he'll have to leave her alone within a short few years. But even if he does recover, who knows what he'd actually do in this relationship, as he has made it very apparent that he is addicted to sex and feels entitled to people's attention and interest. Not just that, but even she implies that Boogie's likelihood of cheating is so casual that she would just feel hurt and forgive him anyways if he ever actually did go ahead and indulge in other people, because that is just the type of person he is. Anyways, that's all I got. I think I've said my thoughts about Boogie enough. I genuinely don't think he has it in him to get healthy and make a comeback, but if he does, the first steps he needs to make are to actually downsize on his spending, cut his losses, learn a budget, and actually find a job. After he's somewhat stable, he should attempt therapy if he can afford it, and only after he has made progress, he should attempt to rebuild his career on YouTube, but not before hitting the gym and cleaning his body up. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I love you all. Later.